Therefore, X is the input. If you give that input, I can get the output Y. It is like that. Therefore, we can have single variable or multivariable, several things. Therefore, in order to make predictions or decisions without being explicitly programmed to perform the task. When its model is determined, there is no need to program. Machine learning algorithms are used in a wide variety of applications, such as most of the time in computer science people they will use for email filtering with a spam mail or correct mail or computer vision. Okay, and most of the time this one we can also make use of for the that is analysis, that is translation point of view. I'm speaking in English. Let us say you can convert to Telugu, you can convert to Hindi, Russian, etc., etc. Where it is infeasible to develop an algorithm to specific instructions for programming the task. This machine learning is closely related to a computational statistics. You see, once again, I'm repeating, machine learning is closely related to computational statistics, which focuses on making predictions using computers. If you're having good knowledge of the machine learning statistics, you can easily understand this machine learning algorithms are very, very simple. The study of mathematical optimization delivers methods, theory, and application domains to the field of machine learning. Data mining is a field of study. Once again, data mining, several algorithms will be there. Okay, large data is there. Okay, how to extract from that data inputs, whatever we want. Data mining is a field of study within machine learning and focuses on exploratory data analysis through unsupervised learning. As I mentioned, the learning is three types: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Therefore, it is based upon unsupervised learning. It is in its application across business problems. Machine learning is also referred to as predictive analytics. Therefore, in the machine learning, once again, we are having three types of analytics are there. There is the data analytics point of view. Okay, that is one is the descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics. Out of these three, the predictive analytics are becoming very, very popular. Therefore, machine learning algorithms, this predictive analytics, whatever we are doing in the machine learning, we are predicting something. Therefore, machine learning, supervised and unsupervised. Okay, where unsupervised learning, it is used most for the clustering, means grouping. I want to make this is one group. There are several methods are there. Therefore, the neural network is also one of the method that we are having. Fuzzy, fuzzy means K fuzzy. Uh, C means okay hierarchical, several things. Neural network is also part of that one. In the supervised learning, we can also have the classification or regression. Okay, classification means categorizing 1, 2, 3 different classes. Regression, continuously outputs will be there. Therefore, this in this classification, support vector machine, discriminant analytics, navy Bayes, okay, nearest neighbor. These are all algorithm based on statistics. Okay, but in this one, in this regression, okay, it is a classification regression continuous. That is SVR, GPR, ensemble methods. Ensemble methods are nothing but these are hybridized method like okay, and decision trees, neural networks also comes under this neural supervised learning. Therefore, there is this slight variation is there between the neural network as well as the machine learning. Therefore, in this one, uh, with the rise in big data, machine learning has become a key technique for solving problems in areas such as computational finance. That is most of the time people are using. If they're using this analytics in the business, people are calling business analytics. I don't know, maybe in some institution they are starting one course, business analytics, as on today. That is nothing but machine learning algorithms only. Computational finance or credit scoring and algorithmic trading. There is image processing and computer vision for face recognition, motion detection, and object detection, and computational biology for tumor detection, drug discovery, and DNA sequencing, and in energy production for price and load forecasting, that is for prediction. Okay, there are several applications are there. We can use these things in the in renewable sources like MPP, maximum power point tracking techniques. Also, we can make use of neural network, fuzzy logic based MPPT, and all that. And automotive, aerospace, and manufacturing for predictive maintenance, and natural language processing for voice recognition and application. What I was mentioning, this natural language processing, that is translation. That is, I'm speaking in English, it will convert to Telugu, Hindi, and Russian, okay, any other language. Therefore, all this wonderful thing, when I'm talking about this artificial intelligence, okay, good old days, people has classified into three categories. One is the symbolic intelligence, that is the classical AI. They will use prologue, natural language, etc. Whereas machine learning, what we are discussing as on today, and another one is the computational intelligence. What is computational intelligence? That is, we can write a program or anything, okay, for this intelligence. That is the study of adaptive mechanisms. Adaptive means which will change with respect to time. Okay, it's more adaptive. Even it is time is changing, they will according to time they will modify. Just like, for example, I will give one simple example. Suppose when you are having studied control systems, PID controllers, proportional integral derivative. These integral controllers, PID controllers, are suitable when you determine gain, proportional gain, integral gain, and derivative gain. Though those gains are valid only for particular operating condition which you have designed. Suppose those operating conditions are changed, therefore what you will do, those gains will not work as a controllers. When operating conditions change, once again we have to calculate, once again we have to refine, or we can tune those gains. But therefore, whereas in this one, if you use as a neuro controller or fuzzy controller, okay, they will work, they will change adaptively. When the operating conditions are changed, these controller gains or etc., whatever based upon the problem, they will change automatically. That's what we will call adaptive mechanism is there in this computational intelligence. Whereas if we use conventional PID controllers, every time it goes on tuning. That is one of the tedious job. Intelligent behavior in complex and changing environments based on mathematical models of biological system. For all these artificial intelligence, if you observe, they are taking the ideas from biology. All this, just I will discuss while going further. Therefore, our base is the biology. Suppose I will now itself, if you want to say artificial neural network, brain is the role model. Fuzzy logic, mind is the role model. Mind, brain and mind both are different. Whereas you talk about what is that evolution algorithms. We are talking, we are mimicking the birds, we are mimicking the ants, we are mimicking the bees, etc., and all that. Therefore, any of this deep learning is a part of the subset of the neural network. Instead of the basic difference is that we will call whatever I'm discussing today that neural network is a shallow neural networks or conventional neural networks. Here we will have only one hidden layer we will consider. Okay, there hundreds of hidden layers. The kind slightly different. That's why deep. We are using the word deep learning or deep neural network. Both are same. Therefore, in this one, that is, they will change adaptively with respect to the system or conditions. The preamble of this one, if you observe, man has learned much from studies of natural systems, using what has been learned to develop new algorithmic models to solve complex problems. Therefore, we are learning all this, as I mentioned, we are mimicking everything from the natural systems. That is the basis for the whatever we are talking about for artificial intelligence. And AI, artificial intelligence, is a machine emulation of human thinking process. Therefore, as I mentioned, the brain, we are mimicking the mind. Okay, in the neural network, brain. Okay. So now, if you come back, this AI techniques, neural as well as fuzzy, the role model for the ANN is the brain. Therefore, when you because our role model, because we are mimicking the brain, okay, it is the brain is a biological thing. We want to write a program, we want to make use of for the solve a particular problem, we require some equations. Therefore, one more thing what I will say is that here in the fuzzy logic, the role model is the role model for the fuzzy logic is the mind. Therefore, whenever it is ANN is a role model, your fuzzy logic is for the fuzzy logic mind. Okay, that is a role model, brain and mind, role models for this one. Now, if you want to take as a role model, something should be specialty is required. Suppose most of the time, what I will say is that suppose after completing my MTech or PhD, if you want to join in a particular organization to teach, then how will you teach? There no what is that? No one has trained. Then if you want to teach, what I will do from LKG to my PhD, several teachers might have come across. Then what we will do out of several teachers, I will pick X is the role model. If you want to teach, okay, in the class, I will teach like X or Y like that. Therefore, like that, this is a role model. What we will do, then in the neural network, our brain is the role model. What is the specialty? I will talk about what is the specialty of the brain. And apart from the neural and fuzzy, in the evolution computer, if you see, evolution computing, second point if you observe, evolution computing began by lifting ideas, biological evolution theory into computer science and continues to look new biological research findings for inspiration. And evolution means improvement from one generation to another generation, some improvement will be required. Therefore, one iteration to another iteration of some evolution means it is a improvement. Okay. If we talk about it is a most of that's why improvement is there. We will use these evolutionary algorithms as optimization techniques. Optimization means it can be improve or it can increase. I want to profits are there. I want to improve, maximize my objective function or maximize profits, maximization function. That is losses, power system losses. I want to minimize those losses. Therefore, when you talk optimal means it can minimum or maximum based upon the problem. Therefore, evolution is an optimization process where the aim is to improve the ability of individuals to survive. Therefore, this evolution computing is the emulation of process of natural selection in such process. Therefore, most of the time, these evolutionary algorithms or optimization techniques, nothing but search process. That means hundreds are there. From the 100, I want to pick the best one. The search process. Just like most of the time in the institutions, the campus interviews. Suppose a company, X company will come. That fellow want to take 2 students. If only 2 students appear for the interview, he will not take even single one student also. Because he want a lot. From 100 students are appeared. From the 100, that fellow can pick 2. That is the best search process. Therefore, these optimization techniques are nothing but search process. And whatever these evolutionary algorithms, they are all, whether it may be birds, okay, in the PSO algorithm, ants, anticolony, or bees, or anything, they are searching for the food only. They are searching for the food in the best way, best optimal way. Okay, that's why we'll call these evolutionary algorithms another name, swarm intelligence, or etc. etc. Everything is a teamwork as a collective behavior. They will work. And what is intelligence? Because every time we're talking intelligence, we have seen what is artificial intelligence, what is the natural intelligence, our brain. Then what is intelligence? Then what I will say is that generally the intelligence comes, if you see the third point, there is a relationship between adaptability and intelligence. That is, most of the time, what I will say, the adaptability point of with respect to if I go to a new place, will not comfortable. Sometimes people will not get sleep, they cannot able to eat. But some person will be wherever you will go in the world, happily they can sleep, happily they can eat and all. That is more adaptability means more intelligent. That is what literature says. And intelligence arises from interactions among individuals. Then how intelligence will come? Only a person is sitting only in his room and he will not interact with anybody. Whether intelligence arises? No. It is like one example I will say in the class. The 60 students are there. Okay. In the class CR. That fellow will interact with all 15 students in the class. That means this class CR, class representative, you will get information from student number 1, 2, 3, all 15 students will get. More information means this fellow is more intelligent. Suppose we are interacting with only 3 students, let us say, that only 3 are interacting themselves. Then what information will get? For small information among the 3 only they will get. But the CR, more information, 15 students is interacting, the information is more, that fellow is more intelligent like that. Therefore, intelligence arises from interactions among individuals. Each individual in a swarm is nothing but a group. Each individual in a swarm behaves in a distributed way with a certain information exchange protocol. In a group, what happens is that information is exchanged from one group, one point to another point, or one ant to another ant, one bee to another bee, like that. Okay, they will go on exchanging information. Therefore, I'm reading once again, each individual in a swarm or in a group behaves in a distributed way with a certain information exchange protocol. Because if you see the ants, they will move in a straight, in an optimal way. How they will move? Because ants, they cannot see and all that. Pheromone, they will lay when ant is moving, they will lay down a pheromone, that chemical. Then based upon that one, all ants, they will move in the same direction. Therefore, now come back to this neural network. In the neural network, we are mimicking the brain as the role model. Then what you have seen when it is a role model, what are the specialties? When a role model means some specialties will be required. We see the brain as a pattern recognition. Okay, most of the time, this AI in artificial intelligence we want to use by pattern recognition or face recognition, several things. Okay, biometric we are using. Okay, in this, if you see the pattern recognition, if you see the example of the pattern recognition, why you want to use, because most of the time I will question, if you want to use neural network, what is the need to use neural network? The best thing is that you should know when I want to use neural network, when I want fast and accurate. Suppose you are having a set of nonlinear differential equations are there, or linear differential equations, or nonlinear algebraic equations. If you want to solve the set of equations, either linear or nonlinear, we should use some numerical technique, like based upon the equations, we can use Gauss-Seidel method, Gauss method, Newton-Raphson method, or Runge-Kutta method, several methods. Then whenever number of equations goes on increasing, their computational time increases. Therefore, it will based upon the problem, it will take certain computational time. Therefore, in this one, whenever you are talking about this neural network, whatever it may be, whatever the size, whatever it may be, it will take less computational time. How it will take less computational time? That based upon your process speed, sometimes it may take few seconds, few milliseconds, or a few microseconds, or nanoseconds, etc. Therefore, how it will take, I will talk about. Therefore, once again I'm repeating, we should use neural network when our basic objective is that to reduce the computational time. If our objective is not to reduce the computational time, there is no need. Whereas in case of the deep learning, what is the need? There, I want feature recognition will come. Okay, several things. Okay, that I don't want to confuse. But first of all, you remember, I want to use neural network when there is a need to reduce the computational time. Therefore, now I will give one episode pattern recognition point of view. How to reduce the computational time and all that. Suppose when I'm studying 5th class, my friend is there, Rama. Therefore, he was 1 year he was there in the 5th class. Okay. After 5th class is over, his father was transferred. He also left. But whenever he was studying that 1 year, he is my close friend besides me. When he is my close friend, his features are stored in the pixels of the brain. Most of the time, when you are having some interest, then only my brain will learn. When we doesn't have any interest, it cannot understand anything. That is most of the time. If you say anything, okay, our parents or anything, sometimes we'll forget. Why we will forget? We'll forget that point will come into picture when we doesn't have any interest. When you're having interest, definitely our brain will store that information in pixels of the brain. Then we never forget in our lifetime. Therefore, if you see that friend, I'm talking this pattern recognition example. My friend was my 1 year, is a very close friend. Okay, he used to sit besides me. Therefore, entire features are stored in the pixels of the brain. But after completing, after 1 year when he left, no interaction with him. Therefore, after completing my BTech, when I went to Bangalore, I seen a person like Rama, my friend. Wait, just by seeing, I thought his face is like that, is maybe Rama. But I don't know. I will go and ask, what is your name? He says Rama. Still, several Ramas are there. I will ask, 5th class, which school you have studied? He says, yes, 5th class I studied in so and so school. Then immediately, that is here, what I want to say is that even though he is my close friend, his features are stored in the pixels of my brain. Therefore, even the lot of noise, because I seen Rama in the 5th class, now I'm seeing after completing BTech, lot of noise, height is changed, weight is changed, colors is changed, everything. But still, just by seeing that person, I seen, hey, he's Rama. Therefore, this is fastness. I never use any algorithm or anything. Therefore, his features are stored in the brain. When it is recognized, immediately brain says, yes, he is Rama. That is the fastness. That's why we want to mimic this neural brain as our artificial neural network. That's why we'll call is a role model. And one more function of the brain, if you see, brain also will act as a filter. What is a filter? In our house, if I want to prepare a cup of tea, I will use a filter to remove the tea dust. Similarly, in the brain also will do. Therefore, if you see one example, suppose I want to go before pandemic, if you observe, okay, not pandemic, okay, as on today, all the railway stations are empty, as on today, but good olden days, day and night, okay, good railway station like Vijayawada, Secunderabad, okay, and Chennai, okay, day and night, there is no difference at all. People used be in the station and several noise, is it not? Let us say I want to travel from Secunderabad railway station. I want to go to Delhi, and entire day I worked very hard. My train is night at about 12:30. After reaching a station, okay, entire station was lot of noise. Vendors are shouting, announcements are coming, trains are coming and going and all that. After entering the railway station, there is announcement. My train is delayed by half an hour or 1 hour like that. That entire day, I worked exhaustively. Okay, I want to have some rest. Somewhere on the platform, I took some seat, and after keeping my luggage aside, without our notice, sometimes because at the time my body wants some rest. Therefore, happily I can sleep for a while, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. That means here, what I want to say, a lot of noise is there. Still, I'm able to sleep for a minute, for a few minutes, 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But same noise is there in the house. Is it possible to sleep? We cannot. If anyone is talking in the house, we will ask, don't speak. Go outside and speak like that. But here, no control. I cannot say anything. But still, your body wants some rest. Therefore, what brain is doing is that it is filtering all that noise. Therefore, most of the time, this artificial neural network, it is used for the filtering applications. Okay, face recognition, lot of noise is there. How to recognize the face, etc., and all that. And one more third aspect to associative memory. Most of the time, this associative memory we will not use here. Associative memory is used for the in computer science people association. If you know one thing, based upon that, I can determine something. Therefore, for example, I will come to my office in the institute. Okay, after doing certain work in my room, I want to meet X, Y, and Z. Then after meeting X, Y, and Z in the institute, after coming to my room, I lost my keys. Keys are missing somewhere. Then how can I recollect? Oh, after locking my room, I met X. I will go to the X. The keys are there. It says no. I will go to Y. Like that, I can retrieve my keys. And most of the time, you might have seen this associative memory in old Telugu movies also. Okay, either hero, heroine, they will sometimes due to some accident or some other thing, they will lost their memory. Therefore, you will take some new place. Okay, there they will see something, they will recollect everything. They're based on something, you can recollect the associative memory. Therefore, there are also several parallels are there. BAM, bidirectional associative memory. Like it is very, very popular. People will use for this to retrieve the information. And one more thing, scanner and brain, both are same. So scanner is there. So what scanner will do? If I keep photograph, I will get the replica of the photograph. If I keep the text, I will get the replica of the text I will get. Then brain also doing same thing. You can question anytime. There is no need to wait at the end of this class. Therefore, you can question anytime. Okay, you can interrupt me anytime. And you can also give some answers also. Okay, the brain, the scanner is different and brain is different. So brain, what it will do is that if some information is there, when it is stored in the pixels of the brain, lifelong it will remembers. But scanner, temporarily. At the time of only, it will remember, after that over. If you see the last point, brain as a plastic organ. The brain is a plastic organ? No, it is a biological. But still the plastic is used because the word based upon this one, we can mold the shape. Suppose plastic thing is there, it is in a rectangle. I can mold into square. I can mold into a sphere, like that. Therefore, brain as a plastic organ means we can modify. Similarly, we can, whatever the most of the time if you see students of 10th class, that fellow is very average. After +2, you will become class topper. Some students who are class toppers up to 10th class, they will become average in +2. What is happening? Everything based upon how you will train, how you will program your brain. Therefore, one more thing also, if you see in the society, a good people will become bad people sometimes. Bad will become good. Okay, all this, what is happening is how you program your brain, how you train your brain. Therefore, based upon this one, brain is acting as a plastic organ. And one more thing here with respect to brain, if you want to say, several things are there. One incident I will tell, I will stop. Sometimes I want to go to a theater. I purchased a movie of 100 rupees, and after coming out of the theater, you will get headache. Then why you will get headache? You have purchased 100 rupees ticket, and while coming out of the theater, I'm getting headache. That is, I purchased 100 rupees ticket to get headache. No one will do just purchase the 100 rupees ticket to they will not purchase headache also, no. Because while going to the movie, I will expect movie like this, like this, like this, and several things you will assume. Several songs may be good and all that. But after coming out of the theater, a lot of mismatch. I expected something, movie is something. Therefore, I will get headache. Okay. Therefore, brain in the whatever the you will train the network. Okay. You can similarly human beings also how they will control. Okay. But there is spirituality also there are several things how to control the brain, how to control the mind. Okay, we cannot control mind brain, but you can control mind. Okay, the brain and mind both are together. There are several things. Therefore, this artificial intelligence is a branch of computer science concerned with making computers intelligent. Therefore, if you see the second one, AI is a field of science which concerns itself with designing and developing software that is capable of processing knowledge. Here, we will call neural and fuzzy logic. These are knowledge-based systems also. We will process the knowledge, okay? And we will know knowledge is different and wisdom is different. Both are knowledge is just, there is one proverb is there, generally what I will say. That is, what is the proverb? A person can be knowledgeable with other person's knowledge, but a person cannot be wise with other person's wisdom. Okay. Therefore, wisdom is different. Knowledge. Wisdom is nothing but your common sense. Okay. Therefore, they will store the information. That is why this neural and fuzzy, how they will store, we can talk, we can see, we'll call knowledge-based systems. Processing knowledge and applying that knowledge to manipulate an ever-changing situations. After knowledge is stored, I can make use of based upon the requirement. Okay. AI is a machine emulation of human thinking process. The human brain is a source of natural intelligence and truly remarkable parallel computer. Why we are calling it a parallel computer? Because one biological neuron, if I compare with the processor can do wonders. i7 processor, i5 processor, i9 processor. But a simple biological neuron cannot do anything. And one more thing, in case of the brain, where having billions of neurons are there, all the neurons they will work together. That's why we are calling as the parallel computer, or sometimes people call PDP, parallel distributed processor. Also people will call. Human brain is the most complex machine on Earth. The brain did not simply retain a copy of the picture as a scanner would, but and recognize the knowledge on the basis of meaning. The brain is fantastically plastic organ, able to constantly reprogram itself. That's why everybody modify reprogram itself to represent and understand the world. Therefore, we can, if you want to be good, you can much more good. You can bad also. You can become bad also. This intelligent controller was proposed to increase the flexibility and extend the range of the automatic control system. Because in the, as I mentioned, the controllers, instead of PID controllers, you can use neuro controllers or fuzzy controllers, etc., etc. We see this one human computer and biological system. One human computer means our desktop or laptop, whatever it may be, which is having some processor. Okay, biological neural system or brain, which is having natural biological neurons. The processor is a complex, where one human i7 processor, i9 processor. One processor can do wonders, high speed. We can have mostly one. When you are more than one means, we will call it parallel computer. Okay. You see the biological neuron, single biological neuron computer, simple, low speed, a large number are required. If it want to do some as a wonders. Memory. Whereas in the case of computer, I can separate processor is different and memory is different. It's localized at a particular place. But whereas in this one, this memory is integrated into the processor. In our brain, I cannot show this is the processing, this is the memory. No, both are integrated together and it is distributed entirely. This processor and memory, whatever the memory brain is there, entirely it is distributed. That is what we will call distributed computing. Decentralized, sequential means step by step. Okay, one statement, second statement like that. Stored programs it will do. Actual program is stored. What is that? Windows version is stored. Then only it will work. Otherwise, it will not work. Therefore, it is distributed. Okay, entire brain parallel. All the neurons are working together. Self-learning. It will learn based on stored programs. It will work. Whereas it is self-learning. How to learn self-learning? Once again, for the self-learning, because it is the unsupervised learning. I will give simple example for the self-learning or unsupervised learning. That is, in a go to the village atmosphere, assuming mother is they are having only single room, and mother is cooking on the ground with firewood, no gas stove, no platform, nothing, and she is having a kid having less than 1 year old. Therefore, when while cooking the food on the firewood on the floor, the kid want to go and touch the fire because it's very fascinating when blue flames are coming. He want to go and touch the fire. But the mother says, "Don't touch the fire. It is harmful to you. You cannot understand." Still, he want to go and touch the fire. Therefore, mother what she will do? She will hold the kid while cooking the food. Then one fine day, someone has knocked the door. Immediately, what she has done is that she left the kid on the floor and she left. She want to meet who has come. Meanwhile, this kid, no control, he will go and touch the fire. He has learning. Therefore, next day, if you take the kid to touch the fire, he will touch, he will resist. If you want to keep his fingers near to the fire, he will not, he will say no, he will resist. That is self-learning, unsupervised learning. That is why here also I will say there is one proverb. What is the difference between fools and intelligent? Who is fool? The fool is, he will learn from his own experience. Who is intelligent? The intelligent person is that fellow will learn from other people's experience. That is intelligent. Okay, because here we are getting supervised, unsupervised learning. Based upon that one, I want to talk about this self-learning. And operating environment here well defined, well constrained. It is poorly defined and unconstrained. This is biological. It is not required. And the basic difference between the traditional programming and AI-based, traditional programming, if I want to write a program to solve an equations, some of a set of equations, I cannot separate which is the program, which is knowledge. Everything looks like the same program only. Okay, it is embedded. Program and knowledge both are embedded. But here, I can separate. Program is different and knowledge is different. Therefore, this we will call knowledge-based systems. If you see the biological neuron, it will have a nucleus that is we will call cell body, dendrites, receivers, axon, transmitter or transmit the information. Okay, we'll call axon, biological term. Receive the information, we'll call by means of some system, we'll call dendrites. And one more thing is synapse. We'll use in our neural network also, artificial neural network, a functional unit between two neurons. That is, whenever you are having this a neuron, this is one neuron, this is another neuron, what is interlinking, we'll call synapse or we'll call synaptic weight. Okay, then that's why the synapse is a functional unit between two neurons, one axon strand of one neuron, dendrite of another. That's the information is processing from one neuron to another neuron. We'll call synapse or synaptic weight. That's why what I want to stress here is that the synapse, this word we borrowed from the biology. Okay, this is a biological neuron. Now, biology cannot do anything because to solve some set of equations or set of problem solving, I require certain equations. Therefore, that biological neuron I want to convert into a model. Okay, there are several models are there. This model is used in several ways. Several people will use. Okay, and in the neural network toolbox in MATLAB, also people will use this type of modeling. Inputs x1, x2, xn. Weights w1, w2, wn. Weights are small numbers. If weight is 0 means there is no connection at all from x1 to this one. A small number, I can generate plus and minus 0.5. Okay, plus and minus 0.2 something. And here, if I stop here itself, if this is my output, if summation is used, what is the net here? X1 W1 plus X2 W2 plus Xn W. If I stop my output here itself, what happens is that my neuron is a linear. But most of the time, the problems are non-linear. Linear neuron cannot do anything. I want to convert this linear neuron into non-linear. To convert it to non-linear, I should use certain non-linear functions. Based upon the non-linear function, the non-linear function will be like this. It will be sigmoidal function. If my input is x, output is f of x, it is 1 by 1 plus e to the power of minus x. If we use tan hyperbolic function, input is x, output is f of x, it is 1 plus 1 minus e to the power of minus x by 1 plus e to the power of minus x. Gaussian function, etc. These are all non-linear functions. Out of this, the sigmoidal function is very, very popular. If my input is x, output is I will get f of x. What is the f function? Sigmoidal function. My output is 1 by 1 plus e to the power of minus x. Therefore, this is the input is a net, output is a function of net. Okay, if I use sigmoidal function, I will get 1 by 1 plus e to the power of minus net. We use tan hyperbolic 1 minus e to the power of minus net by 1 plus e to the power of minus net, like that you will get. Based upon what type of nonlinear function you are using, your output depends on that. Therefore, if you see this definition, will give a lot of information. A neural network is a massively parallel distributed processor, okay, as I mentioned, PDP, that has a natural property for storing experimental knowledge, okay, and making it available for use. Okay, it resembles the brain in two respects. One is knowledge is acquired by the neural network through learning process. Learning or training both are same, because as the neural, two things are there: training or learning. Okay, learning and testing, or training or testing. Those are buzzwords. Therefore, after training the network has learned. How they will learn? By weights, the synaptic weights, what I'm calling these weights, which are there neural network, the input layer, hidden layer, output layer. And here, and based upon the inputs, you are having two inputs are there, two nodes are sufficient. Three inputs, let's say I want to compute efficiency of the transformer. I require output of the transformer, iron losses, copper losses. Here I want two inputs are required. If I want to compute only efficiency, only one output is sufficient, output node. Whereas this hidden number of layers, how will select the hidden layers? Number of nodes in this one should be approximately 1.5 times than the input nodes. More, it should be more means how much more? Therefore, 1.5 times. And here, when this all the network, each node is interconnected to each and everything, these weights are initialized. How to initialize these weights? Here, three nodes are there. Here, 3 into 2. That means 6 weights are required. I will generate randomly between the some plus and minus 0.3 or plus and minus 0.4, etc. Will initialize the weights. Therefore, in the training, what is happening is that some algorithm, some back propagation algorithm, radial basis function, okay, based upon the algorithm, the weights will be stabilized. And these interneuron connection strengths, known as synaptic weights, are used to store the knowledge. Interneuron connection weights. What is this? This is neuron 1, neuron 2, connection weights. Therefore, in the training, those weights will be modified and they will be stabilized. When they're stabilized means knowledge is stored. When knowledge is stored, at the time of training, I will give, I can use supervised learning, unsupervised learning, etc. But training is over. When these weights are stabilized by means of some algorithms, then at the time of testing, I will give only input. That means here, this learning log, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. In supervised learning, input is given. You are getting output. Here, we require two pattern means input correspond desired output, both are required. Input and desired output means corresponding efficiency. If you want to calculate efficiency of transformer, inputs are my iron losses, copper losses, output of the transformer, that is the input. What is the desired output efficiency? Therefore, based upon this one, I will give my weights are initialized. Therefore, the output is not actual. Some erroneous output I will get. Then between this actual output and desired output, some error will be there. Based upon the error, these weights will be modified. Accordingly, the supervised learning will work. That means here my inputs are X and Y both. But in case of unsupervised learning, there is no teacher. When the teacher is not there, means there is no desired output is not here. Will give only inputs. They're based upon the algorithms. It will make into certain groups, because most of the time this unsupervised learning it is used for the clustering, grouping of algorithms. Okay. And reinforcement learning, if you see, it book looks like supervised and unsupervised, but here we are giving exact desired output. Here we are giving erroneous. Reinforcement here, your efficiency is 0.95. Here I will give not 0.95, I will not give. Here I will give 0.5, 0.6, something like that. Still, it should give me exact output. Okay, this unsupervised learning is a classification. Procedures are often used for on some kind of clustering strategy, which forms groups of similar patterns. When there's hundreds of algorithms are there, based on the problem, you should select these learning algorithms. Okay. The clustering technique is very useful for pattern classification problems. For clustering procedure, it is necessary to define a similarity measure to be used for evaluating how close patterns are. If any learning, the objective of any learning law is that it should eventually lead to a set of weights or synaptic weights, which will capture the pattern information in the training set data. Therefore, most of the time we require data will be required. Therefore, when data is given to certain algorithms, then I should train the network with certain data. After training, my weights were stabilized. After weights are stabilized, I will at the time of supervised learning input and desired both are specified. After 1,000 iteration, 10,000 iteration, network will be stabilized. After that, to test, I will give only input, it should give me the correct output. Therefore, modification of the weights, if you see the backpropagation algorithm, one of the algorithm, okay, initialize the weights, initialize the iteration count, okay, patterns, etc. To update the weights, W new equal W old plus change in the weight. The change in the weight expression based upon certain algorithms, it is not same, it differs from algorithm to algorithm. Therefore, if you see some a general way attacking the problem, the training and testing will be there. First thing, generate the patterns training, normalize. If the values are very large, you have to normalize and initialize the weight matrix, select a suitable nonlinear function, and map the input output patterns according to specified algorithm, that's backpropagation or some other algorithm. Then, when error becomes small, stop training. When in that one, the weights are stabilized and testing, the test the neural network with a novel input. Only input will be provided at the time of testing. No desired output will be given. Okay, this is basically just I want to talk. Okay, I'll stop here because I'm having some other meeting. Therefore, if you're having any questions, you can ask. Any questions?
Any questions, participants?
And most of the time, what I will ask the thing is that those are working, they can able to ask. From the beginners, they should work. What I will say is some hand calculations they should do. Then how it works, we can easily understand. And for the beginners, they can do some hand calculation for the back propagation algorithm in detail. Still, you can ask the questions now, or you can post my email also specified. You can anytime when you're working, any difficulties there, you can mail to me also. Okay, any questions? I will try to answer.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brahmaya Garu and authorities of management for giving me this opportunity. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sir, it gives me immense pleasure to deliver vote of thanks to Dr. D.M. Vinod Kumar, sir. Sir highlighted many research ideas in artificial neural network applications in electrical engineering, machine learning types, supervised, unsupervised, semi-supervised, reinforced, artificial intelligence, swarm intelligence, collective adaptation, capabilities of the brain, multi-layer feed-forward neural network, back propagation algorithm. Thank you, sir. This session helps all of us to analyze and focus on various research areas of artificial applications to smart grid. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for readily accepting my invitation and sparing your valuable time, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, Vinod Kumar, sir. My dear participants, hello. My dear participants, very good afternoon to all. Very good afternoon to all. I request participants to give feedback so that we can improve in the coming short-term training programs.
సార్ ఇక్కడ మ్యూట్ చేసింది కానీ వాయిస్ మురుగన్ సార్
మాట్లాడతాను.
సార్ మురుగన్ సార్
Dr. Murugan sir. Dr. Murugan sir. Dr. Murugan sir. Oh, voice is not audible, sir.
Sir, voice not audible, sir. Murugan, sir.
Hello, ma'am. Hello? Hello? Please unmute my mic, sir. Please unmute my mic, sir.
Sir. I was there in the session.
Hello, sir.
Sir, audible, sir. Murugan, sir.
Sir? Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon to all. First of all, I convey my thanks to the STTP coordinator and the team for the opportunity to participate in this STTP program. You are really and all the sessions are informative and rich, and all the expert donors are share research experiences briefly, and all the sessions useful to all the young and thank you one and all.
Then, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Feedback I feel, sir. What is it?
He's telling something.
Are you able to listen?
No,
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Now I request convener of this STTP, recent trends in renewable energy sources and their integration to smart grid, Dr. B. Brahmaya, sir, Professor of EEE and Controller of Examination, St. Peter's Engineering College, to give his report on STTP.
Respected Secretary Sri T.V. Reddy sir, respected Principal Dr. Srilata Madam, Deans, HODs, Faculty of EEE Department, and my dear participants, a very good afternoon to all. We successfully completed fourth slot of AICTE sponsored short-term training program on recent trends in renewable energy sources and their integration to smart grid. I thank the authorities of AICTE for sanctioning short-term training program. We have resource persons from IIT Jodhpur, IIT Patna, IIT Hyderabad, NIT Silchar, NIT Warangal, NTPC, BHEL, APDCL, JN2H, and Osmania University. Out of 12 sessions, 5 sessions are taken by topmost engineers in the field. They covered solar energy, wind energy, biomass, geothermal, tidal energy, advanced power converter control of solar fed electric vehicles, different types of hybrid energy systems, issues in utility grid, microgrid, smart grid, energy storage systems in utility grids and microgrids, challenges in large scale integration of renewable energy sources, smart grid technologies for better grid management, reliability enhancement of smart grid, etc. All resource persons shared their knowledge, skills, and experience. I hope that the participants have gained maximum knowledge from the lectures. It is useful for the participants to teach subjects in this area and also to do research in this field. All resource professors and engineers agreed to guide the participants if they are willing to do research in that area. Thank you, one and all, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Now I request Dr. K. Srilata Madam, Principal of St. Peter's Engineering College, to address the audience.
Thank you, Madam Sirisha. Respected Secretary and Correspondent of St. Peter's Engineering College, Sri T.V. Reddy Garu, Convener of the Short-Term Training Program, Dr. Brahmaya Garu, faculty members of the Electrical Department of St. Peter's Engineering College, participants from all over the country, and today's chief guest, Sri Bhaskar Garu, Professor Tyagarajar College of Engineering, Madurai. A very good afternoon, one and all. At first, I would like to congratulate the efforts taken by the Department of EEE and the convener of the current program, Dr. Brahmaya Garu, in organizing this 1 week training program as a fourth slot. I especially thank AICTE for granting us the fund in order to organize this particular concept. Renewable energy is a very important concept and is very useful for an electrical engineer, core electrical engineer. Every member who is an electrical engineer must know the importance of the renewable energy source and its production and their integration into the smart, because the major concept lies with the integration, because being a developing country, it is not possible for the India to invest more fund on the new technologies. The only thing that we can do is we have to utilize these resources that are available in our country and to go for the integration of them into the existing grid system. So therefore, there are n number of problems that need to be studied. I hope all the participants might have got satisfied with the concepts that are being trained in this 1 week training program and might have helped you. If you're already a researcher, you might have got some guidance to do further progress, or if you are pursuing your PhD or if you are yet to register, you might have got some idea on certain concepts where the integration to smart grid is an issue. All the resource persons who have trained in this particular 1 week training program are from renowned institutes, and even you can take the help of them for further guidance. You can even contact our convener, Dr. Brahmaya Garu, if you want to have the contact persons of the resource persons. I do expect that you will participate in more such sort of training programs in our college and will be useful for you in your future. I wish you all the best and congratulate the efforts taken by the Department of Electrical Engineering in completing the fourth 1 week training program, short-term training program on recent trends in renewable energy sources. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request our Honorable Secretary, Sir, St. Peter's Engineering College, Sri T.V. Reddy Garu, to address the gathering.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Brahmaya sir, the convener for this short-term training program on recent trends in renewable energy resources and their integration to smart grid. Principal Dr. Srilata and today's chief guest Dr. S. Bhaskar, Professor and Dean, Tyagaraja College of Engineering, Madurai. As rightly said by Principal, we have tried our best. In fact, Brahmaya sir has tried his best to get in the best of the faculty. Thanks to this COVID, it was possible for us to rope in the best of the trainers from the country for all these 4 spells of training that AICTE sponsored program. We could do it, and the future is for renewable energy resources, because as you know, Faculty of Engineering, conventional energy resources are going to die very soon, and they're going to become expensive, and they are limited in resources. So when you go for non-renewable energy resources, renewable energy resources, and if you are going for solar and all those things which are unlimited, if you can tap and if you can try to do them the best, I think the future is for that. We talk about electric vehicle car, or you talk about the new things which are going to happen, or you talk about the storage that the energy battery that people are talking about it, which we are able to tap it from the sunlight. Whatever may be the thing, if you can get good idea about those things, not only academically but also commercially also, they can be converted into very soon. And if we are able to get sufficient knowledge about it, definitely we can help ourselves to upgrade our skills and also train entrepreneurs and also students in this particular regard. And the whole country, the world is talking about renewable energy resources. And if you are able to find a better way to see that the best amount of energy can be tapped from them and also integrate it to the smart grid, I think that's the best gift that we can give to our Mother Earth. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the trainers, who have resource persons who have trained us. And also I would like to appreciate all the participants. Unfortunately, some of them could not join. I really feel sorry for the people who could not join, because you will never get such opportunities in future. This pandemic time is the best opportunity because it's online, and all those who could benefit it, I think definitely you will pass on to your friends, and you will use it in your daily lectures in your classroom, and also in your consultancy projects that you're going to take up. Thank you so much, and all the best to you for your future endeavors.
Thank you, sir. We, on behalf of St. Peter's Engineering College, welcome Dr. S. Bhaskar, sir, Professor of EEE R&D, Tyagaraja College of Engineering, Madurai. Sir received his bachelor's degree in Electrical Electronics Engineering with distinction from Madurai Kamaraj University, Madurai in the year 1991. He finished his master's in Control and Instrumentation with distinction from College of Engineering, Gindi, Anna University, Chennai in the year 1993. He obtained his PhD in the area of hybrid evolutionary algorithms from Madurai Kamaraj University, Madurai, India in 2001. He has completed his postdoctoral research in the area of evolutionary computation and its applications at Nanyang Technological University, Singapore under Boyce Cast Fellowship during 2003 to 2004, supported by Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He has been serving as Faculty of Electrical Electronics Engineering in Tyagaraja College of Engineering, Madurai since 1994, where he is now working as a Professor and Dean R&D. His current research interests include development of new evolutionary algorithms and its applications to complex real-world optimization problems. He has published over 100 plus papers in international national journals in the area of evolutionary optimization and applications. He is the recipient of gold medal for the best research paper in the Journal of Institution of Engineers Computer Engineering Division in the year 2001. His Google Scholar H-index, I10 index and citations are 6534, 31 and 62 respectively as on 15th November 2020. 14 research scholars completed PhD degree from his supervision, and 5 scholars doing PhD research currently in the major areas of evolutionary optimization. He has been principal investigator in the project titled Design and Fabrication of Magnetostrictive Position Sensor for Control Rod Drive Mechanism, CRDM, supported by Baba Atomic Research Center, Mumbai, and also major research project titled Evolutionary Algorithm Based Computationally Expensive Problem Solving Using Surrogate Methods, supported by UGC, New Delhi. He is a senior member of IEEE, Fellow of Institution of Engineers, and life member of the ISTE, Indian Society for Technical Education. He is the reviewer for various international journals in the major areas of soft computing. He has delivered more than 100 invited lectures in the conferences and workshops. He has conducted several conferences and STTP programs in the area of evolutionary optimization and applications. He has visited several engineering colleges as program evaluators of NBA visiting team for the evaluation of programs. He served as an expert member, Master of Trainer of OBE training organized by NBA. He is one of the members of the documentation team who prepared Washington Accord approved Tier 1 document for NBA accreditation. He has acted a resource person to various orientation programs, workshops on outcome-based education and accreditation organized by NBA. He is also a former member of the Engineering Accreditation Evaluation Committee and Moderation Committee of National Board of Accreditation, New Delhi. He has attended CDIO, conceive, design, implement and operate international conferences, meeting at Singapore Polytechnic, Chengdu Technical University, China, Tan University, Vietnam, Alliance Neusoft University, Dalian, China, and Denmark Technical University, Aalborg University, Aarhus University, Denmark. He has also attended University Power Engineering Conference, UPEC, at Staffordshire University, UK. He has attended MHRD sponsored 3-week academic leadership program organized by NIT Trichy, Triple IT, Sri City and NTU Singapore during Feb-March 2019. He has completed IUCEE International Engineering Educator Certification Program with distinction. He has completed popular teaching and learning MOOCs courses on learning how to learn and learning sciences, what every teacher should know. He has conducted more than 100 workshops in outcome-based education, modern pedagogy and OBA since October 2012. Welcome, sir.
Welcome. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Audible, sir.
Very good.
Sir,
First of all,
we on behalf of St. Peter's Engineering College welcome Dr. S. Bhaskar sir, Professor of EEE R&D, Tyagarajar College of Engineering, Madurai, to address the gathering.
good afternoon, one and all present here. Really, I am sorry for late. I thought it is 3:30 p.m. Let us take this opportunity to thank the organizer for fixing me for delivering well-dictated address in AICTE sponsored 1-week online short-term training program on recent trends in renewable energy sources and their integration to smart grid. I also thank AICTE for sponsoring this important activity for the benefit of faculty members in electrical engineering. I also congratulate all the participants who have attended this one week short-term training program in this important area in electrical engineering. Based on the information given by the organizers, I think they have conducted this program with the proper planning. Based on the resource person's background, I could understand most of the speakers from industry and premier institutions in India, covering both industrial expertise and premier academic institutions. The topics also various, they have covered almost all the topics in smart grid. The title itself says that the important core issue in smart grid. In smart grid, a lot of research works are going on as of now, but when it comes to real problem in smart grid, integration of renewable energy resources to the smart grid. Therefore, this is one of the important problems that should be addressed by the researcher in this working in this field. I think if you refer most of the current research work, maybe based on the publications, maybe more number of researchers doing research in this particular field. Not only that, in most of the corporate industries, the major research is dedicated to software development, development of system, integration system that will properly connect renewable energy sources with the existing grid. Therefore, I would thank the organizers for this selection of this topic and the selection of the resource person. Rather, I don't want to discuss on the technical aspects of smart grid because I am not doing any research work in this smart grid field. For the last 10 plus years, I am dedicating myself in various educational technology related work, mainly in outcome-based teaching and learning, outcome-based education, outcome-based accreditation. Maybe I wanted to stress upon the role of faculty in implementing outcome-based education for the next 10 to 15 minutes so that it will be useful for all the participants who are attending this wonderful workshop. I think you are all working in various engineering colleges in India. maybe your college may be accredited or re-accredited from National Board of Accreditation or from NAC. Whether it is NAC or NBA accreditation, now in India, outcome-based education is mandatory. Therefore, in that perspective, I wanted to spend some time on outcome-based education so that you will take it for positively in implementing this concept in your own institution. Maybe I will say the importance of outcome-based education. In outcome-based education, with the clear outcomes, we are trying to plan our activities in education. If you take any activity that is centered around curriculum planning, delivery of instructions in the classroom and laboratory, and assessment of student performance. Therefore, these three works are very important in educational institution. Therefore, the major time is spent for only these three activities. In outcome-based education, we are going to start these activities with the clear-cut outcomes. In the sense that we will be having three set of outcomes. The one outcome is with respect to professional accomplishment of our graduates, called by the name Program Educational Objectives or so-called PEOs. The second outcome is called Program Outcomes or Graduate Attributes or Program Specific Outcomes. During the graduation, we are expecting certain knowledge and skill attitude from each and every successful engineering graduates. Therefore, that is called Program Outcome. After the completion of program, students are going to work in various organizations. We are giving 3 years time for getting accustomed with the various industrial practices. Therefore, after 3 years of graduation, we are measuring their professional accomplishment. That is called program educational objectives or professional outcome. Therefore, one outcome is at professional level, the second outcome at program level during the completion of 4 years. Then we are going to measure the outcomes at course level. In each and every semester, students are undergoing 6 to 7 theory courses or 2 or 3 laboratory courses depending upon your university and your own curriculum. Therefore, hardly they are going to have 8 courses in total, theory and practical. For each and every course, we are going to earmark standard course outcomes. Therefore, at the end of the course, after the completion of the course, we are going to measure the attainment of course outcomes. During the end of the program, we are going to measure the attainment of program outcomes. Towards the end of their 3 years after graduation, we are going to measure their professional accomplishments. Therefore, based on that only, the entire education system is going to revolve. Therefore, with these 3 outcomes, we are going to design the curriculum. Designing curriculum means it is a holistic curriculum design. Each and every selection of courses, co-curricular and extracurricular activities are in alignment with achieving the program outcomes or the so-called graduate attributes. Therefore, the curricular, co-curricular and extracurricular activities are mapped to program outcome so that after the successful completion of the program, we should be in a position to achieve the standard competencies earmarked in the graduate attributes in terms of knowledge, in terms of skill and in terms of attitude or behavioral changes. Next, we are going to deliver the instruction in the classroom because we have already written course outcomes for the individual courses. As a faculty, I need to deliver the courses in order to achieve the outcomes. In a conventional education, our focus is to cover the curriculum. Okay, we are not intended to measure the real outcome of student learning. Therefore, in outcome-based education, the total focus is shifted from covering the curriculum to mainly measuring the achievement of learning outcome or course level learning outcome. Therefore, the student, the delivery of instruction in the classroom will be based on the course outcome levels. Depending upon the Bloom's taxonomy knowledge levels, we will be selecting appropriate delivery methodologies in order to achieve the stated outcomes. Then we are going to conduct various assessment methodologies depending upon the level of course outcomes. Therefore, if you refer the outcome-based education, there are three important activities: outcomes, delivery, and assessment. They are in three different points in the triangle. Always one will drive the other in a continuous quality improvement loop. With the outcomes, we are delivering. For the delivery, we are going to measure the learning outcome from the student point of view by measuring the performance. From that, we are going to get some meaningful information that is used for changing the content or changing the delivery or changing the assessment. Therefore, continuously we are going to change all these three activities until we have achieved the stated outcomes. Therefore, outcome-based education is a quality system, is a quality improvement loop. In other words, we are trying to use the closed loop system normally used for engineering systems. Therefore, outcome-based education is simply extension of the closed loop system concept. Because we are all electrical engineers, we will better appreciate the closed loop system. Because we are in control system, we are studying the concept of closed loop, constant of feedback, and so on. If it's a real application of the closed loop system concept to educational system, if you understand the control system concept, you can also understand outcome-based education. In control system, if you have a closed loop system, there will be a reference input or set point, there will be a controller, there will be a process, there will be an output. By using the sensor, we are measuring the output. Based on the output measured, we are going to get the error by comparing with the set point. The output of the error detector will drive the controller. Controller in turn will drive the system so as to move towards the set point or reference value. It's a very typical control system concept. The same concept is applicable to educational system. Here, the process is nothing but teaching learning experience. Maybe what is really happening in the classroom, that is a process. The controller is nothing but a system. Maybe as an individual, we are taking the error from the set point and current knowledge level of our students. That is used for incorporating changes in the system. The changes may be curriculum level or delivery level or assignment level. That will be taken by one faculty or group of faculty. Therefore, here the controller is a faculty or group of faculty in the department. They are going to decide what kind of changes required in order to achieve the stated outcomes. Therefore, by comparing analogous quantities in simple control system concept with the outcome-based education, we are able to understand in very clear terms. In outcome-based education, we are not having one level of loop, rather we have three loops. In fact, one loop is for course outcome level changes, the middle loop for program outcome level changes, the outer loop for program educational objectives or professional level changes. Therefore, it is a complex control system in which three loops are intact with the three different set points. In the inner loop, middle loop, and output loop. In order to follow the outcome-based education, as a faculty, we need to have certain competencies. In addition to the technical competencies, we need to get some teaching, we need to improve our teaching competencies. Also, we need to understand student psychology. Then only we are able to follow the outcome-based education in true spirit. In a conventional system, mostly the faculty will take the syllabus as a major input. But in outcome-based education, course outcomes, the target for each and every course outcome, the level, the depth of each and every course outcome is input for the different course outcomes of the course. Considering this, I am going to plan my activities. Maybe it may be a session plan or a course plan for the entire semester. That plan involves what are the activities or what are the delivery methodologies you are going to practice in the each and every session. That will be decided based on the outcomes. In addition to that, we need to have a lot of formative feedback in the class. not only summative feedback, because in most of the institutions we will be taking only summative feedback. It may be internal assessment or it may be end semester examination. We will measure the student performance only after a certain period of time. But in outcome-based education, we need to take the feedback not only at the end of the semester or during the course of maybe internal 1 month or 2 months after. We need to take the intermediate feedback while classes are going on. Maybe during the topics are discussed. We have to take a formal feedback by conducting some quiz or some other formative methodologies. Thereby, we are able to understand the delivery methodologies adopted by the faculty is effective or not effective. Thereby, we are able to bring in lot of changes in our delivery mechanism. Similarly, in the assessment also, we have to do lot of changes in our conventional assessment. Test, in addition to the test, we need to have other methodologies, other assessment methodologies like assignment, tutorial or mini project, depending upon the level of course outcome. Therefore, by knowing these teaching skills or teaching competencies, we are able to effectively implement outcome-based education in institutions across India. With that positive note, I wanted to congratulate all the participants for attending this wonderful short-term training program. Congratulations to you. We will also appreciate your maybe learning attitude towards learning something is new. If some of you are really interested to do further research work, it is one of the very good research area. Definitely you can take your further research work in this area. We have a lot of potential for continuing research work in this area. A lot of new journals are identified. Even in IEEE, they have dedicated own transaction for smart grid. Therefore, a lot of avenues are there to publish your high impact research work in leading publications. I thank one and all for inviting me to question this validators. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir, for giving most valuable information in outcome-based education. It is very useful for all the participants and the faculty. Sir, you compared outcome-based education with closed-loop control system of electrical engineering that gives the outline of outcome-based education. Sir, we being electrical engineers, very easy to understand the outcome-based education of your example, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Honorable Secretary, sir, Principal Madam, Convener, Co-Convener, and invited guests, faculty members, and my dear participants, it's my privilege to propose vote of thanks for this validatory session. I, on behalf of St. Peter's Engineering College team, extend my vote of thanks to all the resource persons who enlightened us on various research ideas of renewable energy sources. I express my sincere thanks to all the resource persons for giving an excellent information about renewable energy, need of renewable energy, types of renewable energy, and also global scenario regarding renewable energy generation. We enhanced our knowledge by information provided in all sessions. Thanks a lot to all the resource persons for readily accepting our invitation. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Very good afternoon, sir. Dr. Bhaskar, sir. I am very thankful to you, sir, for accepting my invitation and readily accepting to share your time with us. Thank you, sir.